Whoa, all four wheels off the ground there in the old dolly. Driving lights nosed into the ground a bit there.
Right on. This is wrong. Okay.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the restoration of this poor old rally Dolomite Sprint. And today, well, we're going to put the brakes back together. Well, before I put the brakes back together, we should talk about what they are. Now, I bought these about 30 years ago and have been on the car ever since, and I've had no problems with any of this at all. In fact, I think this is the first we put new wheel bearings in it, and this will be the first new wheel bearing since I did it, so they've done well. So what's different? Well, the stub axle is different to a standard dolly Sprint. It's longer. It's a Triumph special tuning part. You're never going to buy these again, that's for sure. The upright came with it. It was different but the same. And there's like a steel ring here that also came with it. So the sort of width of the car is a little bit wider. That was pretty well the only, like, the Triumph parts side of it. The caliper is a standard dolly Sprint caliper, or dolly caliper, but because the rotor is a ventilated rotor and therefore thicker, there's a packer in here. So you break the caliper in half, this packer goes in, just an aluminium packer. There's an O-ring, two O-rings now. The original had one O-ring, so there's two now, and it is packed out. The bolts are longer, and hey presto, and the pins that hold the pads in place are longer as well. Now the rotor isn't a Triumph part. The rotor is off a Renault and it's machined to fit. I'm not sure what the machining was because it came as part of the whole kit that I bought, and I've never replaced it. They probably should be replaced, but I'm not sure. Anyway, they work, so. I'm not sure whether they had to be machined down in size, I just don't know. But there's an adapter here that adapts the dolly hub to the Renault rotor. Now that's been in there for all those years and I've just never had any problems at all, so it certainly made the brakes considerably better. The studs are 7/16 instead of 3/8 because the 3/8 ones kept breaking. Now ever since I put the ventilated rotors on, you can drive the dolly hard and not have any brake related issues. In the old days, there's a racetrack in Sydney called Eastern Creek, and 3 laps of Eastern Creek with the dolly and the standard brakes. There's no brakes at the end of 3 laps. These days with these rotors on, you can just hammer around and around and around and the brakes are going to go nowhere. So that's the story of the brakes. Let's put some new wheel bearings in and get them on. Now this is a new wheel bearing. Got it from a well-known Triumph parts supplier, and we need to get it down in there. Alrighty, need to put a little bit of grease in here just to help it slide in. Make sure you put it in the right way around and now for the messy job of getting these bearings greased up. I have seen special tools for doing this, but I'm not sure anybody ever uses them. Now for what is quite beyond me. Laughingly called it a seal. I haven't been able to find a modern equivalent to do this job, so I bought this. It's from the same well-known parts supplier. I've never known these to last, well, next time you pull it off it's all gone. But I'll put it in nevertheless. I'm going to put a bit of oil on here because this, whatever it is, felt stuff, it's a bit grippy. I think it sort of can grip on the inside of the hub there when you turn it, and this felt stuff can basically bugger up. Alright, time to get this brake rotor and hub on with its new wheel bearings. Just put a little bit of oil around there for that horrible felt sort of seal thing to run on so it doesn't grip up and bugger up. And now if you read the workshop manual, there's all sorts of ways you're supposed to adjust this wheel bearing, but again, because it's a motorsport car and it's therefore constantly getting scrutineered, the facts of life are, if I do it the right way, the scrutineers will jack it up and say, oh, your wheel bearing's loose, mate. So basically I just have to do it up so there's no movement, which is a bit hard to tell until you put a wheel on it. It will need adjusting because there's all grease in there and everything's got to bed in a little bit. So I won't be worried about too much. Well, I won't be doing any adjusting at all. I'll basically leave it where it is now, and after I've driven it round the block, if that ever happens, I'll jack it up and readjust it. That'll do for now. Not to forget the split pin. Now the back of dollies there's a split pin that holds it all together, but getting that apart, the sort of hub assembly and all that apart on the rear end, you need one hell of a press. The old days when I had a job where I worked had this great big press, so it was something I could do, but these days if I ever had to pull one apart. Now, what happened on the back at the dolly one time, the split pin either broke or disappeared. It wasn't there anyway. And I was going to an event at Eastern Creek. Now, the day before I'd been there, I'd been racing around the track, and then the next day was a big show day. So anyway, just as I was about to enter the track, there's a roundabout, and what felt like a flat tyre until I saw the back wheel rolling down the road. And that was because the split pin had disappeared in some way, shape or form. The nut had unwound itself, and with the movement of the wheel and everything, it had actually broken the tapered sort of arrangement. Not broken it, but broken that seal that tapers get. And the whole wheel and drum come off. Now everything was there on the road, the keyway and the nut and everything, so it wasn't that much of a drama to put it back together. But it was a bit of a thing, and lucky it didn't happen the day before when I was driving around Eastern Creek itself. Instead I was doing a nice slow speed around a roundabout. I won't put any grease in here because all this will be coming apart again to readjust this before it does any real driving with it, so that doesn't really matter much. Now, time to put this caliper on. Brake pad time. The problems of getting older is the physicality of working on a car, but it's not only that, it's the seeing. There's a tiny little hole in this pin where this sort of other pin goes through, and I'm going to have to go and get some glasses. Well, that's the hub and rotor and caliper on. It's done up to the line. It's rocking on. Get on and do the other side. Then we're going to come to a bit of a problem with more work on the dolly, because it's going to be decision time. I need to decide what this car's going to do in its future. Is it going to sit in the shed as a trophy to my past, or is it going to go out and do stuff? To go out and do stuff, now I'm retired and downsized, so I no longer have a car trailer or a tow vehicle, so it has to be registered and be able to be driven to and from events. And that's not so much of a drama now because I don't drive on the limit like I used to, so there's less chance of breaking it. But it has to be registered, and that opens up a big can of worms that I've talked about in the past. And I need to do some more research. I'm not getting very far reading books, reading regulations, both from the motorsport side and from the government registration side, because it's sort of, you've got to be an armchair solicitor to do it. It sort of says, you know, car must comply with sort of appendix this, paragraph that, you know, blah blah blah. When you go to look for appendix this and paragraph that, you can't find it, and even if you can, you find contradictions. You know, it's beyond me, to be honest. I've given up. So my next best chance, I think, is to, one, talk to people that have cars registered as rally cars, and two, go to one of the inspectors who's going to inspect it to register it as a rally car, to find out what his, you know, actual views are, or what he's going to look for. And that's my next step. So the aluminium roll cage is the thing. If I can't register it as a rally car with an aluminium roll cage in it, then I either have to spend a lot of money or park it. And they're the decisions I'm going to have to make, but I need to find out whether that's the case. You can still run, it's a logbook car, so being a logbook car, it's allowed to continue to be used, but not in rallies as such, as in forest special stage rallies. But it can be used in lesser events like rally sprints and carnicrosses, and they call them regularity rallies, I think. Again, I don't know. It's so hard to find out this stuff. And so until I find out that, I can't make a decision on what to do and what to do about the roll cage, because basically the next step, once this car's here, is I need to get the brake pedal and clutch pedal out, and to do that I need to pull the dash out, and to do that I've got to pull the front part of the roll cage out. I need to get them out because the holes where the pin goes through onto the brake pedal and clutch pedal, it's got elongated and the pedal's got sloppy, and because all of the pins and all of the joints have got elongated, the whole thing got very sloppy. So I'm trying to tighten all that up. So now, if the aluminium roll cage is staying in, I've got some extra bracing that I've wanted to put in it, and that needs to be welded, but it needs to be tacked in place first, and therefore the welder's got to come around. If I'm not going to keep the aluminium roll cage, well, all that doesn't matter. So I don't want to pull the front part of the roll cage out until he's tacked, welded the various bits of bracing, and so it sort of all compounds to the point where I can't go much further than once I've got the brakes back together. So there's an event on in a few weeks that I'll go to and hopefully talk to people about their cars and what they went through to get them registered. And there is apparently an inspector not that far from here, so I might before then go see him and try and get a gauge on what is or isn't required. And it's not just the roll cage. I've seen that seats are now like tagged or whatever, like a seat belt, like the roll cage. So when this roll cage went in this car, there was none of that. You just built it yourself if you wanted to. There was no registration process. The car was just a registered car, just like any other car. There was no special regos for them. It just didn't come into the equation. It wasn't part of the thing. And consequently this roll cage has been added to and added to and added to, and it's got no certification because when it was made it didn't have that. So the new one will come with a thing stamped into it saying it's an approved, you know, blah blah blah. And I've seen stuff about seats like too, and so these seats are old. I think it's called Corbu seats, and they're pretty old, and I don't know, maybe they're not allowed anymore either, I don't know. Seat belts are relatively new, but they're only 4-point seat belts and they might require more. Again, it all depends on what you're going in. Fire extinguishers, well that's just a matter of red, they run out of date every 12 months or so, I think. That seems to anyway. Every car I own has got a couple of fire extinguishers in them, because as they come out of the dolly they go into one of the other cars because they're probably still going to work. Anyway, I'll get onto the other side and we'll see how we go. Well, There you go, the magic of video, and the other side's done. So that's the brakes on both sides, all sort of ready to go. Still got to put the brake booster in and master cylinder and some brake pipes before I can bleed the brakes, but that can't happen for a while till I get the brake pedal out and have the hole fixed up. Well, that brings us to the end of another exciting episode of the restoration of this poor old Dolomite Sprint rally car. Tune in, same duck time, same duck channel, for more mechanical mayhem on the poor old dolly. When you'll see me, well, no, I don't know what I'll be doing then, because I have to make the big decision on the future of the dolly. So it'll be a bit of a mystery for you. Tune in next time. Bye for now.